Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning for our Microsoft Forms webinar. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to go through creating and sending a form using Microsoft Forms, and also the various options for viewing the responses. Before we start, I just have some housekeeping. So if you want to ask any questions or anything throughout the webinar, please do. You can use the panel on the right-hand side of your screen here to ask your questions. And I'll answer as much as I can today. If I don't get through it all this morning, I will get back to you after the event with an answer to your question. So please feel free to ask all the questions that you can want. So I know, depending on the different industries and the work that you do, there's a lot of different procedures and forms and everything relating to COVID-19. But this morning, just to go through a form quickly, I'm going to look at the HSA COVID-19 return to work form as a sample. So I'll work through replicating this form using Microsoft Forms, and I'll show you the various different options that you have. And then you can bring that back to work and manipulate it and use it as much as you want then. So to find Microsoft Forms, if you haven't already used it, you can come to portal.office.com and you'll sign in there using your Office 365 username and password. And then you'll see all the available apps that you have there. The one you're looking for is Forms. Once you click on that, it'll open up another window for you, which will look something like this. Now, the forms I'm using today is the standard version, and it's available in Office 365 Essential and upwards. There is a Forms Pro version, which you can purchase if you want to, but today I'm not using anything special. This is just the standard Forms version, and everyone should have it already available in their Office 365 accounts. So you'll see when you come into this screen here that there's a few different options across the top. There's My Forms, Shared with Me, and Group Forms. So what I'm going to look at today is My Forms, but there is other options here. So if someone shares a form with you, you'll find it in this window. And if you have a group form where you want a few people to be able to view the responses that are submitted to the forms, you can create a group form within here. But within My Forms, the form is just available to you to see. And for all the responses that are submitted through the form, you're the only one that will be able to see them. So to create a new form, we just click on the button here on the left-hand side of the screen. And it'll bring us into this window. So we can add a title. We can add our questions here. We also have the option to view responses. As there's no responses yet, there's nothing here, but we can click back and forth between the two. When you go to add a new question, you have a few different types that you can use. You have a choice option, which allows you to submit a yes or no type question. It also allows you to have multiple answers selected. So if you want to have an option where they can tick 3 or 4 different responses, you can have that option using this question as well. Or you can do a drop-down menu for them to choose from. The next question is a simple text question. So it's an open-ended question where they can type in anything that they want. Next one is a rating type. And this is a star rating or a number rating, anywhere from 1 to 10. And they can just tick the option that they want. There's a date type question, which opens up a calendar and you can select a date from the calendar given. And when you click on the down arrow here, you get a few more options. So you can have a ranking option, which again allows you to have multiple different answers, and the person can select the one that they prefer most to the one they prefer least, or whatever type of question you want to enter there. You can use a Likert, which I'm actually going to use in this form today, so I'll explain that one in a bit more detail when we're going through it. You can have a file upload. Now, the one thing to remember about this option here is if you want the person filling in the form to be able to upload a file, it only works with people inside your organization. So if you want to send this form to someone outside of your organization, you can't use this option. And the last type is a Net Promoter Score. So this again is similar to a rating. You can have an option from 1 to 10 and the person can select the number depending on how much they agree or disagree with your statement. And then of course you can add sections. So if you have a long form, just to make it a bit user friendly for the person filling it in, you can add multiple sections where you might have 4 or 5 questions in a section, and then once they complete those questions, they can click next to move to the next option, the next section, and they can answer a few more questions that way. And it just makes the form a little shorter, that they're not scrolling down the page for ages. So for now, I'm just going to bring in the title of my form, which I have here. As I said, this is one that I just downloaded from the HSA site. It's a sample return to work form. I'm just going to copy the title here. And I'm going to paste it in here. You can add a picture here as well if you want. So you could add your company logo by just clicking on the little insert picture. You can use one from the web, from your OneDrive, or you can upload one. I'll just upload our Trojan one here. Depending on how big the picture is, it might take a few minutes to load. So you can see it's there now. And suddenly our company branding is on it. So you can personalize it a bit like that as well. I'm going to go back to our sample form here, and I'm going to copy this information that they have here as well. And if you click into enter a description, under your title, you can paste it in there. And you have the information. Once I click away from it, I can see what that's going to look like. One downside of forms is that you can't bold or italics the font that's in it. So you can only have it as a one standard plane of text, but it works pretty well anyways. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add the first question. So I'm going to come back and I can see that the first question is employee name. And then I have a manager name and a workplace address. To enter these questions onto the form, I'm going to click Add New, and I'm going to use a text type question. So I just click on text, and I type in employee name. Now I can say whether I want this to be a long or a short answer. If I just click on the little box here, it'll go to a long answer, and you can see that the text box increases in size. If I click that again to go back to a short one, it's a smaller size box. Because your name is usually quite short, I'm going to leave it as a shorter box here. You can also make this a required question by clicking on the little option here, and you'll see then a little asterisk appear beside the name, and that means that that's a required question. So the form cannot be submitted until there is an answer for that question. If I click back into it here, there's 3 little dots, which offers me a few more settings. So I can add a subtitle to the question. If I want to add more detail or explain what type of answer I want, I can add a subtitle. I can add restrictions. So if I wanted to receive a particular type of answer, so maybe it was a number and I wanted it to be lower than something, there's a few different options that you can have: equal to, between, greater than. I don't need any kind of restrictions for this one. It's just a name, so I'm not going to add that in. And another option is you can also add branching. So branching means that if you had a yes/no type of answer, and if the person clicked yes, that they could jump straight to question 6 from question 4, or if they clicked no, they could jump straight to question 5. So it just shortens the form for them, and you can move them around it the way you want. I'm not going to use branching today, I don't need it, but it is an option for you. So I'm going to add in my next question, which is manager name. I'm going to knock off required for this one, but if you wanted to leave it on, you could. And again, I'm going to add the next question, which was workplace address. Now I have this as a text option here, where they can just enter the workplace address, but you could also do this as a drop-down if you have a few different locations. So if I go add new again, and I go to choice, and I'll type in workplace address. Okay. And I'll come down to my three little dots here on the bottom right corner, and I'm going to change this to a drop-down option. And then you could have a few locations, so I could type in Dublin, Galway, Cork, whatever it is. You could type in your full address options. And then instead of asking the person filling in the form to actually type in the address, they can simply just click on the drop down and select the address that they want. So again, it's just another option to make it a bit easier for the person filling in the form and making it quicker for them to do it. I'm going to come back to my sample form here. And I can see that the next 6 questions all have a yes or a no option. So I could, if I wanted, to add each of these questions in individually into the form. But instead, I'm going to use the Likert type question. So I'm going to copy the first one here. I'm going to come back to my form. I'm going to add a new question, but this time I'm going to select a Likert. So you'll see here that there's a number of different options across the top, and there's a number of different statements down here across the side. I want the person to either type yes or no. I don't need these extra options here, so I'm going to delete them. So I just click into the title, and the little bin will appear beside it, and I click on that bin to delete it. So now the only 2 options available to the person answering the form is yes or no. Down here on the left-hand side, I'm going to click into statement 1, and I'm going to paste in my question. So now when the person is submitting this form, they can read the question here and they can click either yes or no. I'm going to come back to my form here. I'm going to copy this in. Go to statement 2. So I'll just click in on statement 2 here, and I'll paste in my question again. So you can see it's becoming into a kind of a neat little box rather than having loads of different questions down the side. Because they're all a yes or no answer, I can just click in and have the little options beside them, and it just makes the form a bit neater and a bit tidier for the person actually answering it. And I'll just do one more that way, so you can copy the question from your form here. Click in here, click add statement, and paste in your question. And you can keep going through that, and you can have as many statements as you want down there, and you can change your titles to yes or no, and you can add as many as you want in this little box here. Like I said, for this form, I'm only going to use a yes or a no option. I'm going to skip the next one, but I'm just going to show you question 6 here. You'll notice that there's a little asterisk here, which is relating to the information down underneath the form. You'll also notice in question 6 that there's a hyperlink here, and that's linking back to the HSE website. So I'm going to show you how to bring this question in as well. I'm going to copy it in here. Back to my form. Again, I'm going to click in anywhere on this question 5 and click add statement. Paste in the question. You can see it has appeared there. But now I need to go back and I need to add in the information that relates to the asterisks. So I'm going to copy the information again from my HSA form. When I come back into my forms here, you'll notice I have no option to actually add this information to the bottom of the question. But what I can do is add it to the top here. So when I click in here to question number 5, and I come down to the 3 little dots at the bottom right corner, I have the option to add a subtitle. So I'm going to click on that, and I can see another box has appeared under my question header. So in here, I'm going to paste in the text that I copied from the HSA form. Just tidy that up a bit. So now I have my little asterisk and the information that relates to question 6. My asterisk is here as well. Now, unfortunately, Forms doesn't give you the option to add it in at the bottom, but that is just a way of handling it, that it appears up here for you. So the next thing to look at is the hyperlink. So you'll notice here that there's actually no hyperlink anymore. It has disappeared from me when I copied in the information. Now, unfortunately, something with Forms is it doesn't allow you to embed a hyperlink into text. You have to write the full hyperlink into the actual question. So I'm going to go back to my HSA form and I'm going to copy the URL that's embedded in here. And I'm going to go back to question 6 from my form. And I'm just going to paste it in. And when I click away from that, you'll see the hyperlink appears. So it's just a little downside of Forms that you can't actually embed it into a text, but you can actually include URLs in it. You just need to type them out full. And so the person filling in the form can then click on that link and it'll open up the HSE website for them. So again, now we just have 3 more questions. We have additional information. We have the name and the date. So I'll quickly add in these 3 questions here. So add new, I'll come back to my text option. Add additional information here. And I can make this a long answer in case they have a lot of text that they want to write in. And you do the same for the print name option as well. And the last one I'm going to use is the date. So I'm going to add new and select a date type question. And you'll see that this has a calendar for me now. So if I want to preview this form, I want to actually see what it's going to look like for the person submitting it. I can come up to the top and I can just press the little preview button here. I can see my form name, my logo, the information that I entered. I can see that I have required questions in my form, which are marked by the little red asterisks. So I can see the 2 different options that I have for the workplace address. So here they can either enter in the full address, or in question number 4, they can actually select from a drop-down list. This is my Likert type question here, so I can see they have the option to click either yes or no. They can't click both. And they can come down through the form and click all the answers that they need. And they also have the URL that they can click on it here to go and look at the HSE website. Then when they come down to the date, they can click in here and a calendar opens up for them. So they can click on today, or they can select a date in the future or in the past. And that's your form created. You can also see that this is what it looked like on a computer. If you want to see what it will look like on a mobile, you can click on this button here and it'll show you what it looks like. So it automatically changes itself and adapts to whether it's a mobile that you're looking at or whether it's a tablet that you're using or a computer. It'll adapt and it'll make it easy for the person filling it in to see. Another thing I can see is that this color does not really go with my logo here. So if I want to change the theme to adapt it to my company branding, I'm just going to click back. And this brings me back to where I can edit the form again. And I can click on theme up here. So there's a few default themes here that I can just pick from. I can have a color or I can have a picture. If there's nothing here that I like, I can add a custom one. So you'll see the little plus down here and it brings me in to add a custom theme. So I can upload a picture, or I can enter a specific color. So once you know the hex key for your company logo, you can add in that specific color here. So I'll select the blue one and go to preview. And the form adapts and changes, and the buttons and everything change for that as well. So one thing to check before you actually share this form with someone is to go into the settings, and there's a few different setting options for forms. So to change the settings, I come up to the three little dots on the top right corner, and I click on settings. So at the moment, this form is set to only people in my organization can respond. So if someone outside of my organization got the link for this form, they would not be able to respond to it. If I want people outside of my organization to respond, I can click on this little option which says anyone with the link can respond. Which, if you're using this for people outside of your organization, you will need to click. But because this is an employee return to work form, you can use the option of only people in my organization can respond. Once you click on this option, you'll see you can decide whether to record the name, and you also have the option to submit only one response per person. So when I record the name, that automatically fills the information for me in the response. And what that means is the person actually filling in the form will have to sign into their Office 365 account before they can fill in the form. Whereas if I had this option ticked, they wouldn't have to do that. Anyone that has the link will open in a web browser and can fill in the form. So they're the two different options here. And that's why this one, if you're using it for inside your organization, is a bit more secure, that they can actually have to sign in. So if you want personal or private information, you can just click this little option here. An advantage of having this option ticked is that you can record the person's name, which essentially means you don't need question 1, you can delete it, and it shortens the form for the person filling it in because you already have that information. It also means that you can delete question number 7 here, print name, because again, that is automatically filled in. And it's just saving time for the person actually submitting the form. Also, an advantage of using forms is that the date and time stamp is automatically submitted when someone responds. So essentially, you don't need question 8 here either. You don't need the date field. But I just wanted to show you how to add these in so that you can see you can exactly replicate the HSA form in Microsoft Forms. But when you're using Microsoft Forms, it does make it a bit easier for the person responding, that you can reduce the amount of fields that they have to fill in. Some more options that you have when using forms is you can decide when the form can accept responses and when it's closed. So at the moment, this form is accepting responses. If I untick that option, the form is closed and I can fill in a message. So if anyone clicks on the link, they will get a message saying this form is closed, that they need to contact whoever in the company to be able to access the form. But I'm going to tick accept responses. I can also set a start and end date if I want. So I can say the form opens on a particular date and the form closes on a particular date. And then any time outside of those dates, the form will not accept responses. You can shuffle the questions. If you are using it maybe for surveys or something, you can shuffle the questions around. And you can also add a customized thank you message. So as a default, when someone submits a response through this form, they will receive a message saying your response was submitted. But you can adjust this to anything you want. You can say thank you for submitting this response. You can add an email address, or you can add additional information that you want them to see once they've submitted the form. Then you can also have the option to send an email receipt to the respondent, so the person who's filling in the form will be able to see or get a copy of their response. And you can also say get email notification of each response. and that'll email you every time someone submits a response for this form. So once you're happy with your settings, you can then share the form by clicking on the share button. So you can simply copy the link to this form and you can send it in an email. You can embed it into a website. If you want to either, you can get a QR code for it, or you can actually email it directly from here, just by clicking on the little email button, and it'll send to whoever you want. So I'm just going to quickly answer this form. I'm just going to go to the preview window. And actually, I've added restrictions onto that one. I'm going to remove the restrictions off that form. Go back to my preview. And quickly do a response here. And I'm going to tick the option that I want to receive a receipt of my responses. And I'm going to press submit. So once this form has actually been submitted, it might just take a second for it to register. But you'll see that a response has been submitted, one response here. So when I click into my form, and I click into the responses window, I can see there was one response. I can scroll down through it to see the responses here. Or by using the three little buttons here, the three little dots, I can delete the response, or I can print a summary of it, which is going to load a PDF version of it here. Cancel that. Or I can open it in Excel by clicking this little button, and it'll download the Excel sheet for me with all of the responses. You also have this little option here which says view results, and you can go individually through each result. So if I had more options here, you would be able to see the list of the respondents, and you'll be able to select the specific one that you're looking for. And now you'll see my emails here are just creating. So this might be a little bit confusing because I'm after sending it to myself, but this is the email you will receive saying that a new response has been submitted for your form. And you can click on the link here to say view those results, which will open up the form for you. As the person who completed the form, I will receive this email saying thank you for filling out our COVID return to work form, and I can view a copy of my responses. So this is the email that you will receive if you completed the form, if you're the person that actually filled it out. And this is the email you will receive as the person who created the form and wants to view all the responses. And they come in real time. So every time someone actually submits an answer to that form that you have created, you will receive these emails. So I know we went through a lot there, and I hope that that makes sense. I really just wanted to give you an idea of what you could do with forms and how you could reduce the amount of paperwork that you have, because I know there's a lot of processes, a lot of new procedures that have to go in place now for COVID-19, and there's a lot of paperwork involved in that. And you can reduce that amount of paperwork, and you can even automate some of the processes by using Microsoft 365. And like I said, this is already in your Office suite. It's not an additional cost. It's something that you can use for anyone using an Office 365 Essential or above package that you will have this already built in. And it's just to get the use out of it and get the advantage of using it. You can also use this for procedures and stuff, like you can add videos into it. show you, I have one here that's a sample procedure one where there's a video actually embedded, and you could have a question here, you know, saying, have you viewed this video? Do you understand everything that's outlined in this video? And you can have a yes or a no option here. And maybe this is a procedure for when you come into the building, you could record a video of, you know, that you have to sanitize your hands, you have to go and you have to sign in, maybe you have to check your temperature, maybe you have to wear certain PPE. You could actually record that whole process, upload the video and add it in here and send it out to everyone. And you can track that everyone has actually watched the video and responded to it and agrees to these new procedures that have been put in place. So there really is a load of different options for using forms. And this morning, I just wanted to go through the basics of it to get everyone used to it. And as you get more used to it, you can increase the amount of automation and everything within it. And it just helps reduce some of the administration work. So I hope you found that useful. If you do have any questions, or if you're unsure of anything, do get back to me. I know I went through some of that very quickly this morning. Like I said, I just wanted to give you a taster for it. And as always, I will send out a recording of the webinar to everyone afterwards, so you can go back and look at it again if there's anything you're unsure about. And I'll also be sending out a survey with that as well, just to see how you're finding the webinars and if there's anything that you would like us to cover in the future. So please do fill that in and let us know how we're doing. We're always happy to hear feedback from our customers, and so hopefully you're enjoying them. And I see a question coming in here. Is it possible within a form to have a tick box for terms and conditions? Yeah, so I'll just go back into this form here. What you could do for your terms and conditions is just add a new question here as a choice. And say, do you agree to our T&C? Then you could add the link where your terms and conditions are saved. Usually your terms and conditions are saved on your website, so you could add your link in there, saying, you know, view our terms and conditions here. And then you could have a yes or a no option here. And then they'll have to agree, and you could put that as a required option as well if you wanted, that they have to either select yes or no. And they can have the link then to wherever your terms and conditions are saved. And that's an option for, excuse me, for how you could manage your terms and conditions using forms. And see, you can also use it for like marketing preferences and stuff as well. And there's different options around that, but that's just a quick example of how you could manage that using Microsoft Forms. So, you know, I know sometimes there can be a little delay for the questions coming in, but like I say, if I don't get to answer it this morning, I will get back to you with an answer to your question. So please do submit them or email me afterwards, and I'll try and help you out as much as I can. But I hope you found this useful. And that's really all from me this morning. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks, everyone. Bye.